Good day everyone, I am CarloRedeeno Dichoso, and for our course project in load testing, I will be discussing the topic using runtime settings. Runtime settings are an essential part of load testing because they define how virtual users behave. During test execution, even if a test script is well designed, incorrect runtime settings can lead to unrealistic results. In this presentation, I will explain what runtime settings are, why they are important, their major components, and the best practices in using them. Load testing is a type of performance testing used to evaluate how a system behaves under expected and peak user loads. The goal of load testing is to ensure that the system remains stable, responsive, and reliable even when many users are accessing it at the same time. Runtime settings play a major role in load testing because they control how virtual users interact with the system, such as how fast they act, how often they repeat tasks, and how they respond to errors. Runtime settings are configurations that determine how virtual users execute a test script while the load test is running. These settings are applied before the test starts and remain active throughout the test execution. They help simulate real users' behavior by controlling factors such as delays between actions, number of repetitions, and error responses, making the test result more realistic and reliable. Runtime settings are important because unrealistic configurations can lead to misleading performance results. For example, if virtual users perform actions continuously without any delay, the system may appear slower than it actually is under real-world conditions. Proper runtime settings help ensure that the generated load closely matches actual user behavior, resulting in more accurate and meaningful performance data. Runtime settings are composed of several key components that work together to control user behavior. These components include log settings, think time, iterations and pacing, and error handling. Each component has a direct impact on how the test is executed and how the system responds under load. Think time represents the delay between user actions, such as reading information or filling out forms. This makes the test more realistic because real users do not attempt actions instantly. Iterations define how many times a virtual user repeats a test script. Increasing the number of iterations increases the total load applied to the system. Pacing controls the time between iterations. Proper pacing prevents sudden traffic spikes and helps maintain a consistent load throughout the test. Log settings control how much information is recorded during test execution. While detailed logs are useful for debugging, excessive logging can negatively affect performance. Error handling defines what happens when an error occurs during the test. Options may include continuing the test, stopping the current iteration, or stopping the entire test. Proper configuration of these settings ensure that errors are handled correctly without compromising the test results. When using runtime settings, it is important to match real user behavior as closely as possible. Common mistakes include disabling think time, using unrealistic pacing, and enabling excessive logging. In conclusion, runtime settings are critical components of load testing. Proper configuration leads to realistic simulations, accurate performance results, and better decision making regarding system performance.